In this training video I'm going to show you how to take a source file with a nice range of shadows, midtones and highlights, and to target the specific tones with specific colors. For example, we can place one color into the shadows and then another color into the midtones and highlights to create an attractive monochrome image, which is actually called a duotone because there's two tones in it. Now the final version is going to be something like this. You could have any color you like in the shadows, but I've chosen a nice rich warm dark brown to complement the lighter golden midtones and highlights that we have in the shot. It's a kind of Goldfinger homage really to the James Bond movie. We've got a golden glow on the highlights, midtones and dark brown shadows, and I'll show you how to do that using this source file here, which you'll find on the cover disc. So before we start targeting and tinting the tones, let's convert the image to black and white. There's different ways to do that. You could just go to Mode and choose Grayscale. That's the simplest way. Alternatively, you could go to Image Adjustments and check out the color information by using Desaturate. That does the same job. Or if you need to control the in black and white a little bit more, say your image isn't so well lit and the contrast isn't as good as it could be, you can create a black and white image by using these colors here. For example, we've got very warm colours in the shot, the reds of the girl's skin for example, so we could lighten those up a little bit just to bring more attention to those and keep a contrast between the highlights and the shadows. So you can tweak the image this way, but what we'll do is we'll go the conventional way and just ditch the image's colour by going to Grayscale. But it's nice to know you've got some more complicated options like the convert to black and white option that we've just looked at. So let's discard the colour information by clicking here, and there we have a nice monochrome version with nice strong shadows and then a nice range of midtones up to highlights here like the shoulder. Okay, let's get cracking with this duotone effect by going to Image, Mode, and then you can see that duotone is now available. When it was full color before, this was grayed out, you couldn't access it, but now you can. So let's click on there, and here's one I prepared earlier. So what I'll do is I'm just going to hit reset by holding down the Alt key and clicking reset. You can see I've got my own colors here. You can see the curves that we've edited. We're going to do that again in just a second. But what you'll see is this. It's simply one ink. It's a monotone to start with, and we've got black showing up. So let's go to duotone by clicking here. And now you have two inks, two tones if you like, and one is for the shadows and the other one is set up for the highlights. So you can see we've got blacks in the highlights and going through to the midtones, they're becoming grey, but there's no black in the bright highlights here because that's controlled by ink 2, which is white. So let's start to tweak our tones. Let's go for the main colour for the moment, the gold colour for the midtones and the highlights, by clicking on this colour swatch here. And that opens up the colour libraries, and you can either select a Pantone colour from here or you can go to the picker. And let's just pop that into the main window. And here we have our colour picker. Now we can type in a colour to choose a specific ink. Now you can experiment just by clicking and dragging, and as you see in the background there, the highlights are changing colour accordingly depending on what colour I'm using, and you can use all sorts of different colours to create some different duotone effects and different moods as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the current colour there, this kind of golden colour, and I'm going to choose some values in the RGB. So 255 is the red value, and then I'm going to use the same ones as the magazine, so 204 for the green, and that gives me a kind of gold effect. And then the final colour I'm just going to leave at 0 and click OK. And here we have the first colour here, which I'm going to call gold. It's a good idea to label it because it won't let you complete the edit, it won't let you click OK without labels for both of the inks. Now I'm going to go to black and have a look at turning that into a slightly darker brown to complement the highlight colours we've got. Let me just slide that up there so you can see a little bit more of the background. Now at the moment our current colour is black, but we can tweak that by placing any colour at all into there. So you can get some very creative and very 60s pop art type effects here. We've got a kind of red and gold mix there. But that's a little bit over the top. For this particular shot I just want a nice subtle dark brown to complement the gold of the midtones and highlights. So what I'm going to do is just type in a value that I know works because I've been experimenting earlier. So 48 for the reds, and the greens will be a value of 18, and finally on the blues we'll go for 0 again, as we did before. So here we have rich dark browns. I could have done that by clicking here in the area to select my ink, but I'm trying to make it as similar to the magazine tutorial as possible. So when you've done that, click OK, and here we have a nice range of dark brown shadows mixing through to the midtones, and then the gold takes over from the midtones up to the highlights. And make sure that you label this dark brown, or any colour that you like really, just so that it has a name. And of course you could have more colours too. You can see there's other inks there because we have tritones, quad tones as well, but let's stick to duotone for the moment. Now the shot still lacks something there. We need a bit more kick in those golden midtones and highlights. So what we can do is just tweak the spread of the colours in the tones using curves. Let's start off with the shadows. Click on here, and that brings up the duotone curve. Now at the moment the curve is a straight line, and it's quite interesting to have a look at how this works. You've got different ranges there from 0 to 100, and that corresponds to the curve. And at 0 there are absolutely no blacks in the highlights. You can see there 0 and 0%, but at 100 we have 100% of our ink colour, our dark brown ink colour, or it was black originally, in the shadows. And at 50, if you just click around about the middle here, and this tells us that we've got a 50% spread of our dark brown ink into the midtones there. And of course when we get up to the highlights, there's absolutely no ink at all from the dark brown showing up in the highlights. So we can tweak the control here, and we can actually change the amount of ink in the midtone range. And we could do that by dragging the point downwards or upwards, or for more accurate editing, let's make the amount of dark brown ink in the midtones only 30% instead of 50%. So that actually then reduces the strength of the dark brown ink in the shadows, and that allows the lighter golden colours to spread out a little bit more, to add more detail to those midtones. So when you're happy, click OK to apply the tonal change, and there we have a curve preview there in ink 1. Now let's tweak ink 2, and let's boost the strength of our golden midtones and highlights. And we can do that again using the curve. 50% is a good place to start. It's the midtones, and at the moment the yellow golden colours are 50% in strength for the midtones. And for the highlights they're 100%, and for the shadows there's no golden colour there at all. So we can just boost this by typing in something like 70%, and that pushes the curve up this time, and that boosts the colour in the highlights, and we have a curve looking like this in the preview here. So we've basically increased the saturation, we've boosted the colours where it's important, so we can see the details in the shadows, midtones and highlights quite clearly, and there's still a nice tonal range throughout. So click OK to apply that change, and you now have a shot that has a dominant golden colour in the highlights and the midtones, and then we go to a nice rich dark brown in the shadows, but we've tweaked the curves so that the shadows aren't as strong as they were, to give a little bit more detail there revealed in some of these midtones here in the face, which is quite an important area to see, and it was very, very dark to start with. So these curves are very handy indeed at altering the spread of colours. And of course before you commit the change, you could then dramatically experiment and alter by using other colours here. You've still got that option, but let's stick with the golden brown colour we've chosen. Click OK, and there we have our duotone image. Let's click OK to finally change that. If you have to have names here, otherwise it won't let you. For example, if I just delete that and try clicking OK, it will complain. You've got to specify an ink name. So let's go back to dark brown, and of course once we've created that, we could save that particular duotone effect by clicking save, and then load it in at a later date if we wanted to create a series of evenly coloured and similar looking shots. But let's click OK to complete the image, and there is our duotone shot.